What's up, guys? Okay, so the last video got, albeit on a completely unrelated topic, got great feedback, and I feel less constrained by this long-form audio environment, so I'm going to try to make several more of these and commit to doing this more consistently for you guys. And this is an effort to document, in these every subsequent video, we'll be trying to document some of my more common talking tracks in the flyby. Again, in a less constrained environment, and also one that's easier to reference for future people that have the same question. So today, I want to cover the whole no best pre-workout, which should be sort of a groaner or an eye roller for many of you, because you've heard me talk about it so many times, but why in particular this category just defies even ranking. I find is almost a futile endeavor, because it's so hard to rank something that's so subjective as a pre-workout, and what people care about in this category is so wildly different that again, it's just a useless endeavor. So, but the distinction that I've made in the past is that in camp one, you have these people that I like to call scientists. And these people want evidence, bring me the evidence. There's a saying among scientists that in God we trust and everybody else bring data, okay? And these are the people that harp on things like proprietary blends or underdosed ingredients. And they tend to care less about some of the more nebulous, hard to measure things, right? Because data and results and research is measurable by definition. Scientists sort of make their careers with measurables. Then in camp two, you have what I like to call alchemists. And this is sort of a nod to the medieval notion of alchemy. You could transmute precious metals, and of course that's not a real thing, but these people are more like mysticism and philosophy, not really undergirded by science. And these people, I would translate that to the pre-workout category, they don't really care at all about what's measurable, what's disclosed even in the pre-workout, or they care less about that, and they care more about how the pre-workout makes them feel, and then they're able to transmute that, hence the other reason for the name, into a more productive workout. They're able to harness the feeling they get from it productively. And they sort of scratch their head, or they don't understand why there are criticisms levied at some of the, proprietary blend or quote unquote underdosed pre-workouts, because they work for them. And this is, again, these people are going to index more highly on subjective measures, not necessarily things that can be measured. This is the person that says it just works for me. The point I'd like to put forth is that actually could be true, right? There are, I know some fairly prolific or adept athletes that don't really know what the hell they're doing, and they rely more on, in terms of, I know more about them than the supplements. They are more prolific athletes than me. And then if I try to proffer a recommendation to them, they say, you know what, man, there was one guy I knew that put beta-alanine in black coffee, and that was his thing. I said, hey, man, it would be irresponsible of me, given the caliber athlete that you are, to not recommend creatine. And he was like, this is my pre-workout. I know when I put this in my coffee, I'm ready to train. And the scientists would look at that askew. They would say, that's not correct, man. You are leaving something on the table. And look at all this data behind where my brain went was creatine. However, it's worth noting that I'm not so sure I identify as a pure scientist here, which is interesting. And this is also something I've talked about with proprietary blends and virtue signaling. But I would bet that this is somewhat analogous to people's, the only good analogy I've come up with is sexual preference. People, when polled publicly, will say that they like mundane things, right? But when polled privately, or how they actually behave, they probably prefer something a little bit more off the beaten path. Everyone has their fetishes or whatever. I think that people say when polled, why would you ever want anything but a proprietary blend? Why would you ever want anything but a clinical dose of citrulline, for example? But when actually looked at how they behave behind closed doors, what pre-workouts they actually enjoy, they gravitate to, they go back to, is a good way to look at a pre-workout. They're going to index more like an Alchemist than they would typically care to admit. So I'm not making this a proprietary blend rant video. We've done that before. There's another video on our YouTube and I think on our Instagram TV as well that discusses proprietary blends at length. But what I'm trying to draw the line in the sand between, and it's okay to be in the middle, but the scientist camp over here, the alchemist camp over here, in efforts to be able to refer to this video in the future when people ask me what's the best pre-workout. So it's okay if you identify as an alchemist, and there are plenty of pre-workouts out there that index very, very much in this direction. So they don't have the most compelling dose of anything really. They can be hard to untangle if it's proprietary blend or not. Oftentimes the stimulants at least are obfuscated or not disclosed other than the rank order in a proprietary blend. But that cocktail, that bundle, that package of stimulant is so enjoyable to you, and it puts you in such a good place mentally and physically to train. And remember, in large part, the reason why caffeine and other stimulants it is proven for endurance efforts is because they sort of inure you to the sensation of discomfort that comes with endurance events. But that's also why caffeine's in Excedrin, by the way. People don't know that, but there's caffeine in Excedrin because it lowers your perception of pain. That's why the headache goes away. It's also why you're able to push further on a long run or similar. But they care a lot more, these alchemists care a lot more about this package of stimulants and the way it makes them feel and the way they're able to harness that sensation productively, again, to have a better workout. These scientists over here are obsessed with clinical doses, and I also think, again, the point of the video is not to poke holes in the scientist people, but to make it to be okay to identify as either one. The scientists, I think, they're getting more of an alchemy like, not placebo, but because they have a high degree of confidence in the ingredients themselves, because they are transparent and disclosed, they think the pre-workout is going to work more, and therefore it does work more. And anyone who says that is not a real phenomenon, frankly, has not interacted with these things in the real world, or interacted with customers, or just paid attention to the research. So if you are a scientist, you like fully disclosed clinical doses that you can measure, and they impart what these people perceive to be measurable results, and it's also they're able to be compared easily to other things in the category, whereas the alchemists prefer the feeling, the sensation, the ritual of taking their favorite pre-workout, and the fact that they know that it will predictably put them in the space to train, and there is some room in the middle. You can be half-half. It's difficult for a pre-workout to do both. Again, my whole point of the video was to remove the stigma if you index over here and your favorite pre-workout is a pre-workout that otherwise seems to be easily critiqued for potentially having not enough of a certain ingredient or whatever. In my experience, that's okay and arguably even acceptable that you could fall into one of these two camps. And I think you need to understand what you want out of your pre-workout before you start using superlatives like best. And it's even once you know which camp you lean towards or fall into entirely, I don't even think in that camp it's impossible to rank order, or it is possible, I should say, to rank order best to worst, because this person might be mostly an alchemist, but they care very much about taste. This person might be a pure alchemist. They don't need any performance-enhancing ingredients at all. They just want to get gassed up on stimulants. This person might be the stimulants they could do without. They'll take the caffeine or what have you, but they care so much about creatine, beta-alanine, and citrulline that they unapologetically search those ingredients out. And the point is, all these behaviors exist on a spectrum, just like pre-workouts exist on a spectrum. There's fun pre-workouts on both sides. I promise. I've taken a lot of them, and I don't think you should read these sort of virtue signaling-esque critiques too literally, because if you find the right pre-workout and it ticks these boxes for you, and you are able to harness the feeling, you love the feeling, you look forward to it, then that might be more of a true performance enhancer than something over here, and vice versa. So there you go. Scientist versus alchemist, no best pre-workout. hopefully this is a useful video for you guys.